The cul-de-sac of Willow Creek gleamed under the late afternoon sun, each house standing in perfect, suffocating symmetry. White picket fences, trimmed hedges, flower beds in perfect color order. The kind of perfection that came not from pride but from pressure. Pressure from her. Karen Mitchell. She was the kind of woman who believed every blade of grass owed her allegiance, every neighbor's life her supervision. Her clipboard was her weapon, her lips perpetually pursed as if the whole world were one violation away from collapse. The Homeowners Association had rules, and she was those rules. That Sunday the air smelled faintly of cut grass and fresh paint. Daniel Ruiz was crouched near his sprinkler system, sleeves rolled up, hands streaked with mud and determination. The nozzle was leaking again, but it didn't bother him much. He liked fixing things himself. It made him feel useful, grounded. A few feet away, his 7-year-old daughter, Maya, sat on the driveway with a bucket of sidewalk chalk spilled around her like pastel treasure. She was humming as she drew, pinks and blues blending into a lopsided rainbow garden. "Daddy, look." Her voice bright as sunlight. Daniel looked up from the sprinkler. "That's beautiful, mi amor," he said, wiping from his forehead. "You got the best garden on the block." Maya grinned proudly and bent to add another flower. Daniel smiled, his chest soft with warmth. Moments like these, quiet, ordinary, happy, were rare since his wife had 2 years ago. He almost didn't hear the sound at first. The sharp clack of heels against concrete. Then came the familiar voice, "Mr. Ruiz." He sighed. "Oh nah." A Karen Mitchell marched up the street like she was inspecting troops, her pearl necklace bouncing with each indignant step. A binder was tucked under her arm, thick with papers, highlighted tabs sticking out like angry flags. "Good afternoon, Karen," Daniel said, forcing a polite tone. Something wrong?" she echoed, as if offended by his calm. "Yes, there's something wrong. Several things. Actually." She stopped a few feet away, snapping open her binder. "First of all, your HOA dues are 3 weeks late. 3, you were notified twice already, and I haven't received payment." Daniel stood, brushing off his hands. "I mailed the check last week. You'll probably get it tomorrow." "That's not how this works," she said sharply. "Deadlines are deadlines, Mr. Ruiz. You can't just—" "I'm not ignoring it," he interrupted, keeping his tone steady. "I just switched banks. It's a minor delay." Karen's mouth pinched tighter. "It's not just the fines. It's the appearance of your property. Your trash cans were visible from the road on Wednesday morning." "Wednesday, Mr. Ruiz. Pickup day is Tuesday." "That's a violation of Section 4B. Daniel then exhaled through his nose. "It was raining Tuesday. I brought them in the next morning." "Excuses," she snapped. "And don't think I didn't notice that fence. Mismatched color. It brings down the entire aesthetic of Willow Creek. I have people complaining." Sensing her father's discomfort, looked up from her drawing. "Daddy, is she mad at us?" A Karen's head snapped toward the little girl. "Children shouldn't interrupt adult conversations." Daniel's jaw erupting. "She lives here too." Karen's eyes narrowed, her voice lowering to a hiss. "Some of us take pride in this neighborhood. Others." Her gaze traveled from Daniel's worn boots to the peeling mailbox. "Others treat it like a rental property." Daniel took a slow breath. He'd had enough of her passive-aggressive lectures for one lifetime. "Karen, it's a neighborhood, not a military base. I work full-time. I'm raising my daughter and I can." "Vo, please," she said with a bitter laugh. "Rules apply to everyone, even single fathers who think they deserve special treatment." "Karen, you're out of line," she interrupted, stepping closer, her face reddening. "You people move in here thinking you can change everything, lower the standards, bring your—" She stopped herself, but the venom was already in the air. "Finish that sentence," he said quietly. She blinked, flustered. "I don't have to. You know what I mean." Maya shuffled closer to her dad, clutching his leg. "Daddy, let's go inside." "Yeah, sweetheart," he said gently, eyes still on Karen. "Go inside, okay." But as Maya started toward the porch, Karen's voice cut through the air again. Shrill, shaky. "Don't you walk away from me." "Young lady." The sudden authority in her tone made Maya freeze. She turned halfway, confused. "Karen," Daniel warned. "It's enough." The Karen's hand went to her purse. "If you think you can just ignore." Daniel frowned, confused, where her hand emerged holding a small silver pistol. For a moment time froze. The sound of distant lawnmowers faded. Even the air seemed to stop moving. "Karen," Daniel whispered. "Put that down. You think I won't defend my neighborhood?" she shouted, her voice trembling now. "You think I'll just let people break the rules, ruin what we built?" "Karen, there's a child here," he said, taking a slow step forward. "You're not thinking straight." "I am thinking straight," she snapped. "You've ignored warnings, fines, everything. You don't belong here." Maya whimpered. "Daddy." Daniel's heart was hammering. Every instinct in him screamed to move, to protect. He raised a hand. "Listen to marrying her. Put it down and we'll talk." "I said don't move," she barked, the gun trembling. Daniel froze. His mind was racing, every outcome flashing like lightning. She was unstable. He could see it in her eyes, the wild mix of righteousness and fear. "Karen," he said softly, "you don't want to do this." But Karen's voice broke. "You've disrespected me for the last time." She swung the gun toward Maya. He just moved. No. He lunged forward, grabbing Maya and pulling her to the ground. The gun went off, the crack exploding through the cold sack like thunder. A puff of dirt burst from the mailbox post inches away from Maya's chalk rainbow. Birds scattered from nearby trees. Karen's hand was shaking violently now, her breath ragged. Daniel shielded his daughter, his heart pounding in his throat. "Are you okay?" She was crying but unhurt, her tiny hands clutching his shirt. He looked up slowly, fury burning through his fear. "You just fired a gun at my child." Karen blinked as if coming out of a trance. The gun wavered in her grip. "Vi." "Drop it," Daniel said. His voice was calm now, low and deadly quiet. "Right now." From the distance, a voice shouted. "Police." "Drop the weapon." Karen flinched. Neighbors were pouring out of houses, phones in hand, eyes wide with disbelief. Someone must have called 911 after the shot. 2 squad cars screeched into the cold sack moments later. Officers rushed out, weapons drawn. "Put the gun down, ma'am." Now Karen, pale and trembling, turned to them in shock. "I was just now." As she dropped the pistol, it clattered on the concrete, echoing like a final judgment. An officer tackled her to the ground, handcuffing her as she sputtered protests about community standards and rule. He just held Maya close, whispering to her as she sobbed into his shoulder. "It's okay, baby. You're safe now." The sun was setting behind them, throwing long shadows across the driveway. Maya's chalk rainbow lay half erased by the scuffle, the colors smeared, broken. But she was alive, and Daniel knew that whatever it took, he'd make sure the woman who pointed a gun at his daughter would never stand in that cold sack again. Not as a neighbor. Not as an authority. Not ever. 6 months later, Willow Creek had regained its quiet, almost unnervingly perfect rhythm. The cold sack still gleamed under the late afternoon sun, but now there was a subtle difference in the air. A sense of relief that had settled over the street, as though the tension that had gripped it for so long had finally been lifted. The freshly trimmed hedges and manicured lawns looked the same, but there was a softness to them now, a warmth that had been absent during Karen Mitchell's reign. Daniel Ruiz walked down the sidewalk with calm confidence. His sleeves were rolled up, not because he was fixing anything, but because he liked the freedom of movement. His hands were clean, steady. No mud, no splinters, no tension. The mailbox near his driveway held the usual stack of letters, and as he sorted through them, he noticed "for sale" sign across the street, still leaning against Karen's abandoned flower pots. It was faded and slightly battered, as if the wind itself wanted to push it away. Karen wasn't home, not anymore. She wasn't coming back. A neighbor waved from across the street, an older woman with a gentle smile. "Hey Daniel, heard the news about Karen," she said, her voice low so the other neighbors wouldn't overhear. Daniel didn't flinch. He said evenly, a small, almost imperceptible nod accompanying the statement. "Assault with a deadly weapon, endangerment of a minor, firearm possession without permit. She earned every day of it. Still hard to believe wife, isn't it, Daniel shrugged, but there was no bitterness in his gesture anymore. Just quiet resolve. It had to happen. That neighborhood didn't deserve her chaos. Maya's small hand tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, look," she exclaimed, pointing to a new chalk drawing on the driveway. The little girl had been flourishing under her father's calm guidance, and now she was creating intricate chalk gardens, rainbows, and hearts. Today's drawing was a large heart with the words "Hum Sif No" written inside it, a proclamation of her innocence, her survival, and her newfound security. Daniel crouched beside her, his hand brushing chalk dust from her tiny fingers. "That's perfect, Maya Moore," he said softly, his voice full of pride. "You've been busy, haven't you?" Maya nodded eagerly. "I'm making our garden bigger, and prettier, and safer." Daniel laughed quietly, the sound light and free for the first time in what felt like forever. "Much safer. And we'll keep it that way." From across the street, the newly elected HOA president emerged. She was an older woman, kind and measured with no trace of Karen's rigid fanaticism. Her smile was genuine as she waved at Daniel Ruiz. "I love the new fence color," brushing off his knees, and waved back. "Thanks. We wanted something cheerful." "Cheerful is good," she said. "Van calm. I think the neighborhood could use a lot more calm." Daniel glanced down the street, where houses stood in their tidy rows, flowers blooming, sprinklers occasionally hissing, and children playing. The air smelled faintly of fresh, cut grass and blooming roses. Everything seemed serene, almost idyllic, but Daniel knew that peace like this was hard-won. It had been bought with patience, vigilance, and the unshakable knowledge that some dangers were too close, too personal to ignore. Maya twirled in the driveway, chalk dust flying around her like fairy dust, and Daniel smiled as he watched her carefree movements. He bent down and helped her add a few finishing touches to her rainbow garden. Together they filled in gaps, traced petals, and colored in hearts. The garden had grown just as they had. Stronger, more resilient, and brighter than ever. From the corner of his eye, Daniel noticed the shadows stretching long across the street as the sun dipped lower in the sky. The light fell on Karen's old house, now empty and silent, a monument to her downfall. The flowerpots she had once fussed over were still there, collecting dust and dead leaves. A few neighbors had whispered about selling the house, but no one dared. It was too much of a reminder of the chaos she had brought. Daniel's gaze lingered for a moment, but he didn't allow himself to dwell on it. It was over. She was gone. Prison had become her new home, and that was exactly where she belonged. "Daddy," Maya's voice brought him back. "Look at this flower." He leaned closer and admired the chalk tulip she had drawn, its petals purple to cement her small hands. "It's beautiful, mi amor. Just like you." She beamed, pride shining in her eyes. "We're gonna make the whole street a garden." Daniel laughed softly, the sound mingling with the distant laughter of children from nearby yards. "Yes, we are. But one step at a time. For now, let's finish this part together." He handed her a piece of pink chalk, and together they colored in the heart of the chalk garden. Each stroke was deliberate, each color chosen with care. It was a quiet act of reclamation, a declaration that their little world was safe, their home secure. Across the street, a couple behind curtains, smiling quietly. The tension that had gripped Willow Creek was dissipating, replaced with cautious optimism. Children played freely, sprinklers hissed over perfectly trimmed lawns, and the air carried the faint scent of blooming flowers. The cul-de-sac had returned to its peaceful rhythm, but this time, it wasn't because of rules enforced with fear. It was because order had been restored through justice and vigilance, through a father who refused to let danger go unchecked. Daniel stood and brushed his hands against his pants, looking down at Maya, who was busy adding a tie butterfly to the edge of the rainbow garden. "All done for today?" he asked gently. "Maya nodded now. But tomorrow we can add more." He smiled, ruffling her hair. "Tomorrow then. And every day after that, we'll keep making it better." As they walked toward the house together, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, golden shadows across the cul-de-sac. Daniel glanced back once at Karen's empty porch, at the faded "For Sale" sign, and then at the row of houses that now felt truly like home. He didn't feel anger anymore, nor fear. There was only a steady, unshakable peace. Maya skipped beside him, chalk dust clinging to her fingers and knees. "Daddy, do you think it will always be like this?" Seeing not just the little girl she was, but the strong, resilient spirit she was becoming. "Yes, mi amor," he said firmly, his voice carrying quiet certainty. "It will be. Because we'll make sure of it." And with that, they stepped onto the porch together, the faint scent of chalk mingling with the evening air. Inside, the lights glowed warmly, reflecting off the freshly painted walls and the carefully curated photographs of their life. Every corner of the house spoke of safety, love, and the promise of a future unmarred by fear. Outside, the cul-de-sac was calm. Birds settled in the trees. Sprinklers whispered over freshly cut grass, and children's laughter floated on the breeze. Willow Creek had reclaimed its serenity, and Daniel knew that, at long last, his daughter could grow up in a place where home truly meant home. Maya turned back one last time, gazing at the chalk garden glowing faintly in the twilight. She said softly, "We're safe now, right?" Daniel crouched down, holding her hands in his. "Yes, mi amor. We are safe. And we always will be." She smiled, the kind of pure, unshakable smile that old could give, and Daniel felt a deep, unwavering certainty. The nightmare of the past was over. Justice had been served. Peace had returned. And in the heart of Willow Creek, father and daughter were finally free to be just that, father and daughter, safe in their home, their garden, and their life together. The sun set fully, bathing the street in warm orange light. Daniel and Maya stood hand in hand, looking at their rainbow garden, knowing that no one could ever take this peace from them again.